Well, good afternoon and welcome to Over the Vast Nurseries. I'm David Wilson and it's a pleasure to have you join us. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. But if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, can I suggest that now might be a good time to do so? And if when you watch our videos, if you like what you see and find the information helpful, it would be great if you could kindly click the like button too, because then that will help other people find that information as well. Now today it's the end of the winter and hopefully the beginning of a whole new year with an early spring. And here on this wagon, on the nursery, I want to show you something that I think is really quite special. And here on the front of this wagon is this gorgeous, compact, dark green, beautifully shaped little inkberry. This is Ilex Forever Emerald, a variety that we were introduced to recently by our good friend Dr. Michael Durr. We had it under trial on the nursery, we compared it with existing varieties, and I said, I think you can tell we're very impressed with how this plant is shaping up in the nursery. It's a good strong grower with this lovely dark green foliage, nice bushy habit, and best of all, unlike a lot of other inkberries that are on the market already, it is well furnished right to the ground. In many ways, it kind of looks like a boxwood, so it could be considered as a boxwood alternative. Whether you use this as a single specimen in a bed or a border, or you use it kind of like I have it here for lining pathways and driveways, whether you plant it in mass or use it in foundation plantings, there's lots of places where you're able to use it. And of course, because it's an inkberry, it's a native variety. So it's got all the hardiness and reliability of a native plant, all going for it. And what's more, there's a fabulous story behind its discovery. And that goes all the way back to 1988, when a propagator from the Arnold Arboretum called Jack Alexander was invited up to Nova Scotia to give a talk to the Atlantic Rhododendron and Horticultural Society. Now, Jack had been interested in inkberries for many years, and he knew, of course, that the upper end of their natural distribution is up in Nova Scotia. It's a hardy Zone 5 plant, and it grows all the way down the eastern coast to Florida and across westwards to Texas. And he'd collected various compact forms over the years in various parts along that distribution, including here in New Jersey in the Pine Barrens. So when he was up in Nova Scotia, he was anxious to see what they looked like at the northern range of their distribution. So his host took him out to a place called Peggy's Cove. And there on the Atlantic coast, buffeted by all the prevailing Atlantic winds coming in amongst the rocks and the thin, barren situations, he come across some inkberries that were small and compact. And he wondered, what would happen if these varieties were taken and put into a good garden situation? Would the same genetics still hold up, or would they grow to be, as they are often in nature, as much as 8, 10 and maybe even 12 foot high? So Jack, of course, being a propagator, got his knife out and took some cuttings of various plants that he found in that area. He worked his way around the plants, looking at several ones that seemed to have desirable characteristics, and then took the cuttings back to the Arboretum. He rooted 19 cuttings. And then, over the years, he watched the plants grow. And one of them turned out to be really neat and compact with these smaller than usual dark green leaves, and it looked like it had potential. He named it Peggy's Cove, and it was introduced by the Arnold Arboretum. Now, If you're growing inkberries in your garden or you see them out in the landscape, you'll know that one of the characteristics of many of the selections that we have in our gardens today is that they tend to grow up and have bare bases, what we call leggy. Some would say ugly legs, and that's why in our promotions you'll see sometimes in our advertising material we say goodbye to ugly legs. Well, this variety does that because it has this beautifully furnished habit that right to ground level. The original plants grew to about 4 foot high. We think that in most people's gardens, certainly with a little bit of trimming, it should be easy to maintain it at around about 3 foot or so. And it's a wonderful plant for putting into a wide variety of situations. And of course, if you've grown inkberries before, you'll know that they are very adaptable, growing well in different types of soils, from sandy to even some wet, swampy areas. They typically, like most hollies, like it on the acid side of neutral. So try to avoid any particular soils that have a high pH, or you might have to treat the soil if you want to try and grow it there. Now, one other thing I should mention, and that is that we've noticed this to be a particularly free-flowering selection, which is wonderful because inkberries make great pollinator plants. Bees love them. They're drawn to the small single white flowers that are rich in nectar. They appear usually in late spring or very early summer, and male and female flowers, very interestingly, are carried on separate plants. And if the female flowers on this selection are pollinated by nearby males, it will carry little black pea-shaped fruits that, of course, is why it's called by the common name inkberry. In fact, in nature, bees love them so much that in some states they make a delicious, highly rated honey that's called gallberry honey. Now, out in the wild, deer will sometimes feed on inkberries, but thankfully, at least in our experience, and also at Rutgers University, where they study deer habits closely, they usually don't bother with them too much, and therefore they'll seldom browse them severely. One of the fabulous things about this plant is that already it's getting us all sorts of interesting reports as to how it's doing in our trial sites. And we're indebted to Dr. Durr for introducing us to it. And now we have the opportunity to introduce it to you too. This is David Wilson. Enjoy your gardening. It's good for us, and it's very good for our environment too.